Small business war stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. Hey, lovers of small businesses and good stories in general. Welcome to episode 91 of Small Business War Stories. And today I sat down with a really awesome guest. Her name is Leslie Crowe. And she was born in West Virginia, and then she went out to Los Angeles to be an actor. And she was in the entertainment business. And then eventually she got over that scene and did not want to be in it anymore. And came back over to the desert, spent some time in Tucson, eventually settling in Austin. And she is the main person at Leslie Crowe Leather. So she makes these amazing handmade and designed pieces out of elk leather and all kinds of really cool materials that she sources. Very responsibly, and we talk about where she gets her materials, where she gets her ideas. But she has a huge following and a lot of people who are very excited to get their hands on the pieces that she makes, which are really spectacular. And in the photo for this episode, she's wearing one of them. And I encourage you to check out her Instagram to see more of what she is doing. We talk about what it means to be out there, and we did this interview. She lives out on a farm, like in the outskirts of Austin, Texas, and there are goats and chickens and all sorts. I mean, it's a whole thing. This episode is brought to you by Proven. Proven.com is a company I started, and it is a small business hiring tool. So if you need to hire for your small business, go ahead, check it out. Proven.com. You'll save a lot of time and money. And we also have a great resource for small businesses at blog.proven.com. And that is where this podcast lives as well. So check it out, blog.proven.com. And if you have any ideas for the podcast or the blog, go ahead and shoot us an email, podcast@proven.com. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode, number 91, with Leslie Crowe of Leslie Crowe Leather in Austin, Texas. And we are live here in beautiful Austin, Texas. And today I have the pleasure and honor to sit down with Leslie Crowe, and she is the founder of Leslie Crowe. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. We are here in a really cool setting. So we are in, what is this? This is like a shared farm? Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, it's a historic property just outside of Austin, Texas, with a lot of people and animals and
how many houses are on here?
I'm not sure. I think there's about 12.
12 houses, okay. And
maybe a few less, but...
And some people do some goat farming, I saw. Some people do
I'm the goat
chickens.
farmer.
You're the goat farmer.
I take care of all the animals. We have horses, donkeys, goats, chickens, pigs.
Wow.
Yeah.
What time do you get up every day?
Whenever I want to. I'm my own boss. So I usually get up about 7.
Okay.
I'm not a huge morning person.
It doesn't like the animals don't need to be fed or something like that.
I've got them well trained.
Okay. Got it. 7 a.m.
Yeah.
late risers. Very cool. So you have a really cool business with a very unique visual ethic, and you started off making leather accessories, right?
Yeah.
How did that get started? What was the first, and how long ago was that?
I've been running my own business, making handcrafted leather goods for about 10 years now.
Okay.
And I've been making crafts since I was a kid. When I was in LA, I was working as a commercial actress, and I would have a lot of downtime on set. So I realized, I could read books or I could bring projects, and I just started bringing little, leather or beadwork or whatever I was working on, and people would come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, are you selling that? I want to buy it," and kind of planted a seed in my head that I had a good business opportunity on my hands. So. Okay,
so that must have been quite a transition. So how do you go from being a commercial actress in LA to living in a farm in Austin making leather? So there's probably some steps in between, but help me walk through that.
Absolutely. Well, originally I'm from the Appalachian Mountains, West Virginia, Western Maryland. So I grew up in a really rural farm-like environment and left when I was 18.
Take Me Home, Country Roads was literally written about where you grew up.
Wild and wonderful, yeah. So, I just wanted to get back to that, I guess. After being in LA, it was really nice to come back.
Okay, so you grew up in West Virginia and you moved to LA to be in the entertainment industry.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. How was that?
It was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to go to college, so I never had any formal education after high school. I decided to go out into the world and learn what I could without, having that college experience. So I went to LA and started working.
Yeah. How long were you there for?
I moved there when I was 18, and I was there on and off about 13 years, maybe a little more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And how was that transition over time? So what kind of work were you doing? What kind of things were you acting in?
I did a lot of commercials, music videos, print modeling, fit modeling, a little bit of everything.
Okay. And then talk me through that transition, because a lot of people who listen to the podcast are maybe looking to turn their passion or something they're doing into a career. So how do you think about your transition from being an actor to being a craftsperson and having your own business?
I mean, it taught me everything I know, just to be exposed to people who were already successful and running their own businesses, to have the opportunity to be in the same room as some of the top designers in the world and to learn directly from them. It was just every step of the journey was part of the education, and it all kind of came full circle to bring me to where I am today.
Cool. So take me through some of the steps. So when was the first time you ever sold something? And when you said, like, okay, there could be something here?
It's probably maybe 12 or 13 years ago. I was walking down the street in LA with a handbag that I had made, just a fringe leather purse that I was really proud of. But, I'm just walking down the street, and this woman stopped me and said, "Oh my gosh, where did you get your bag? I love it." "Oh, I made it." She said, "Oh, really? Do you have a card?" "No, I don't have a card," and nothing like that yet. So, and I think I gave her my phone number, and she ended up buying one, and it just kind of kept going from there.
Okay, so that was the first one. And then how long was it between that time and the time when you turned this into kind of like your full-time thing?
Not too much longer. After I was, at the time, living with my best friend Rachel, and we were always scheming and trying to come up with new ideas, and we started making things together and just kind of learning about how to run a business as we went along. But yeah, we definitely took the momentum and just kept going with it from there.
Okay, cool. And so she's also involved in the business, right? She lives in LA?
We had a company together for 10 years,
Okay.
and kind of in the last 2 years, we both branched off in different directions and took all the experience that we learned together so that we could have our own businesses. And
Okay.
she has a really cool business now called Dust and Fog, based out of Topanga Canyon.
Okay,
And I'm doing Leslie Crowe.
cool. And what is Dust and Fog?
Dust and Fog, it started out as the Heyoka Hideout, which was a store we opened together in Topanga Canyon, and then that was handcrafted leather goods and a mixture of local artists and vintage clothing. And now she's doing the vintage clothing online, and we got away from the brick and mortar. She did it 3 or 4 years after I had moved to Texas. And now she's doing her online fashion as well as the vintage clothes sales.
Cool. All right. So you are now going into a different direction. So you make this design. So how do we describe your designs? I mean, one of the things that when I was looking through your stuff, it has like this Texas in Western sort of design ethic combined with like a more modern feel. Like what are your influences when you come up with your designs? Like where did that come from?
My influences are, I don't know, they're not changing. They're not trend-based. It's just a part of who I am and my life experience, my self-expression. I like to mix, the traditional craftsmanship with kind of a futuristic modern edge to make it something new. And,
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm inspired by the nature and, I like to make things that will last forever, things that are heirlooms. I'm very sentimental about the stories behind things. So I like to make something for someone that they'll have for the rest of their life and be able to pass on and have a story attached to it.
Very cool. So what are examples? Can you think of something that you made for somebody that has then become part of the story of their life?
I've made wedding dresses. That's pretty monumental. Yeah, I've made 2 fringe leather buckskin wedding dresses over the years.
That's crazy. So tell me more about that. So how does that, that's not something that would have occurred to me. What is the process of somebody coming to you and saying, where did that idea come from in the first place? Was it their idea or your idea?
Yeah, it was their idea. I do custom orders, so I have people reach out to me all the time and say, "Oh, I would like to have this custom made. Can you do it?" And yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, I
Very
can
cool.
do that. So.
Very cool. And where were these weddings? Were these weddings here in Texas or somewhere else?
One of them was in Texas, the first one, and the other woman, I believe, was in North Carolina. I never met her. I just made the dress and sent it to her. So.
Oh wow! And how do you do like measurements remotely? Is that something that you?
I have a really strong spatial logic, I guess, when it comes to measurements. If I can, just look at somebody, I can know exactly what's going to fit them. So that's one of the things I really like about doing custom pieces, is being able to make something specifically for a person to fit them perfectly.
Well, that's a great skill. Do you have a catalog of things that you make, or are most of the things one-offs or customs? Like, how does that work?
I would say my website is almost like a portfolio of the different pieces I have made in the past or that I'm able to make, but I'm always, making new pieces, and I like to challenge myself with new designs, so.
So in some ways, like, everything you make is a one of a kind.
Yeah, exactly. And each piece of leather is different and unique and has beautiful natural raw edge and natural scars or any of those characteristics I'd like to incorporate into the piece to make it very much one of a kind.
So how do you source your leather? I mean, where do you find the materials that you want to work with?
It's top secret. Otherwise, everybody would want to get it. No.
Sure, you don't have to tell me a specific place, but tell me more.
I work with a family-owned small-scale tannery, and they collect the deer and elk hides from hunters. So it's a byproduct of someone going hunting, and they're going to use the meat to feed their family. And I think, I have customers who are vegan that don't eat meat themselves, but it's recycling. Otherwise the leather is going to just be wasted. It's going to rot with the animal in the field. So I think it's really beautiful to be able to take that natural material and to make something beautiful from it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you use a lot of, is all of the leather you use, does this come from hunting, or is it most of it, or?
I, for the most part, only work with deer and elk hides that are wild harvested as a byproduct of hunting. I have done, special orders where I'll work with a cowhide that, is sourced from a responsible way. But that's something that's very important to me. Okay. I don't want to be supporting factory farming or animal abuse practices in any way with my materials. But I've had people say, "Oh, I shot a deer and have the meat and I have the leather. Could you make my wife a bag out of it?" Yeah, absolutely. So there's always different opportunities of material and different sources to find it from.
Cool. And do you ever do the tanning, or is that handled by somebody else?
I have done some tanning. I tanned a coyote pelt and a couple deer hides so far. It's something I would really like to get more into later, but it's almost like a whole nother job. So
what is the process of tanning? What does that look like?
You're just cleaning all the meat off of the hide and then scraping and stretching and soaking. There's a whole process of different steps that you have to go through to get it to end up with a very soft, nice material. If you don't get it right, you can end up really like rawhide, very
right. And it gets crackly, and you can't use it for. Okay. Wow, but that's like an entire different art in itself. So you work with a family-based, for a family tannery that sources all this.
Yeah, and I also purchase a lot of hides from just when I'm traveling. If I go to a trading post on a reservation and they have a lot of hides, sometimes I'll buy some and bring them home. I just try to find them from the best possible sources so that I feel good about working with this material.
Cool. Okay. So thinking back to your design, so it seems like it basically happens in a very organic manner where you come up with a piece and then you have a big following on social media and then people buy that piece. So that's sort of, it's more intuition based and process based?
Very, very, very intuition based.
Okay. Interesting. So walk me through, like, in your mind, how does it go? Like, how do you decide what you're going to make next?
Usually I'll start out, if I have a piece of leather, a specific hide that I want to work with, I will lay it out on the floor and just spend a day or two kind of staring at it as I walk around the house. I'll, just study it kind of, and I don't know. Sometimes it just tells me what it wants to be, or if I have a specific design I want to work on, I'll kind of, make the pattern and just start going from there. But it's very, I don't know how
So
to
it's
explain it.
an organic process of kind of feeling what that piece wants to be.
Yeah, very much so. Like the
Okay.
connection with the material and the animal, and just kind of designing from my heart.
Wow. Okay. What is something that you're making right now?
I just finished a collection of 4 bags to go to a shop in California, and I'm working on new pieces for fall. So I've got 3 new bag styles I just finished, and I'm about to work on 3 more, and then a jacket and pants set, and I'm going to make my second pair of chaps that I'm really looking forward to working on
Wow.
that.
You know who I think, you know Margot Price?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like her the way that she dresses and the way that it would be a really great fit for you.
Absolutely. I love her music, and I love to dress musicians. That's one of my favorite things, is to work with performers, and to see my pieces come to life on stage is very rewarding and special.
Awesome. Yeah, we have quite a few folks from the music industry that have been on the show, so I'll make sure I mention it to you.
Very cool.
Awesome. So how do you find your customers? You've grown a pretty sizable social media following. I forget how many it is, but it's more than average. I mean, it's like thousands, tens of thousands, or something like that. How did that happen? How did you grow that following, and what are the things that you've done, and what are maybe lessons that people can take that to do that?
I wish I knew how to tell people. It was really accidental. It was not something that I was really interested in or searching out at all. In fact, I didn't have a laptop or an iPhone or any technology for a really, really long time. And I just happened to get an iPhone when Instagram was first coming out. And I was living in Tucson, Arizona at the time, in the Sonoran Desert. And, I just moved there. I didn't know a lot of people. So I started kind of messing with my phone, and oh, this is cool. What a nice way to share inspiration and photos. And it just kind of took off from there. I think it helped me to reconnect with a lot of my friends from LA and stay in touch with them, even though I was not living there anymore. So it was pretty accidental.
Yeah. When did you decide, and why did you decide to move away from LA and go? So you moved from LA to Tucson, then to here, or is there any stops in between that?
Yeah, from
Okay.
Tucson to here. I just, I moved to LA originally for experience and to have education in the fashion world and to see what I could do with it. And I feel like I did that, and I enjoyed every second of it, and it was an amazing experience that I'm so grateful to have had. But I'm a country girl at heart, and I was ready to get back to the farm life.
Okay. And what were the steps? You went to Tucson, and what about Tucson was it that you decided to keep going east, I guess, and go back to Texas?
I think I just missed the green and the water, and I really liked the desert. I loved living in Tucson, but it's pretty hot there, and I don't know. Texas reminds me more of where I grew up, so it feels more familiar to me.
Got it. So it's like halfway between the desert and West Virginia.
Totally.
That's
The
awesome.
perfect compromise.
Awesome, Texas. That's awesome. Okay. And as you, how do you find your stockist? So we spoke right before we started rolling. We talked about Ashley Arabian, who was Wanderer. She used to be in Taos, now in Fort Worth, who has been on the show, and she's a stockist for you.
Yeah.
How do these relationships come about where people carry your product?
I actually have a lot of people reach out to me that want to carry my product, and I try to be very selective. I make each piece myself, 100% handcrafted. It's a lot of work, and I only have 2 hands. So the more I've been in business, the more I really value the relationships that I have with the stores that I work with. And, I think it's really special to say, well, there's only one store in this town you can get my things, and this is the one, and to really nurture those relationships and build them is beneficial for everybody involved. So
Okay.
it's kind of like a family.
That's cool. Have you ever, so do you get a lot of referrals where people, like maybe who are stocking your products, say, hey, you should talk to this other person? And how do you, because one of the things that's coming to mind as I think about all these things you're saying, and as I looked at where you're living here, there's so many hours in the day, and you're running a farm with goats and chickens, and you're also making all these pieces. How many hours of work a day do you work making these pieces?
As many as I can. The last year I had a repetitive motion injury, so I really learned I have to pace myself, that, there's only so many hours of the day I can sit and lace before it's going to take a toll on my physical well-being. So it's kind of ideal. You know, I wake up in the morning, I do the chores with the animals, I spend time with them, then I work for a few hours, make food, work for a few more hours, do chores in the evening. You know, it provides a good balance and gets me out of the house. And
Yeah. And you've been able to, I mean, your pieces are not inexpensive, is that what I would say?
I mean, sometimes when I, you know, do the math and see how much I'm actually making per hour, you know, I go, oh, wow. But the leather is very expensive because I insist on working with the best quality leather. So that's built into the price.
So how much, just to get a sense, so our audience can get a sense, how much is one, like at the retail level, like one bag that you make?
My bags range in retail price from about $200 up to $900, depending on the level of craftsmanship and detail and the size and material that goes into each piece. Okay. So I try to have a range, so there's something for everybody.
Okay. And do you find that a lot of times what happens is somebody comes into the store, like do you hear that they come in asking for, and so basically do you get the pull from social media and people coming in asking for your stuff? Or is it more this Stockist has customers that come in and they happen to see, oh, this is really cool, I'm going to get this, and then learn about the story? Like how much is the story a driver for what you're selling?
I would say it's probably a huge drive. I don't really know. You know, I don't work with a lot of stores, so I would say most of my business is just online. Direct. People collect my work. I have several collectors who have purchased a lot of pieces, and, you know, that's always a really good feeling to know someone has bought something and they love it so much that they want to buy more pieces. And I get a lot of friend referrals from my current customers to new people. So I think, I'm really fortunate to have such a great referrals and to be able to do business in that way.
That's awesome. Can you think of a time when things went really wrong in your business? A time when you were like, oh, shit.
The only thing I could think of other than my recent arm injury, which was very wrong because I wasn't able to work for a few months. I couldn't even feel my hand. That was kind of scary. But other than that, the only issue that's ever been wrong is just not having enough hands. You know, there's like only so much I can make. And when I first was doing business with my friend Rachel, we would take bigger orders, and that could get, you know, there's only so much you can make, you know, and with natural materials that are in a limited quantity, sometimes the leather is not available because maybe the elk hunting season wasn't very successful for a certain year, and then it's just not available. So that's kind of the only problem.
I should connect you. I train at a place called Atomic Athlete, and one of their owners, Todd, was on the podcast, but his co-owner, Jake, one of his co-owners, goes out every year and harvests an elk in Colorado. I think Colorado, New Mexico, where is he now? He spends a month away, so he's about to come back.
Oh, that's
cool. So I
should
put you guys in touch.
Yeah, I just got my hunting license today. So
Did you? Are you gonna do bow or rifle?
Rifle for now. I would love to bow hunt, but I don't know if I'm good enough yet.
It's a lot of work. You have to put in the practice. I have quite a few friends actually that do that out in Bozeman in Montana.
Oh wow, very cool.
And they get some tags out there. It's if you live there, it's a lot easier to get a tag.
Yeah, I think it's a lot cheaper too. If you're out of state, it's very expensive.
Colorado, I think, is friendlier to out-of-state tags, but you have to pay for it.
Yeah, Colorado is supposed to be one of the best places to go elk hunting, I guess, in the country.
All right. So next, hold on. So are we about to enter the era where you're going to be making bags or products out of the elk that you harvested?
That is definitely something that I would love to do, but realistically, I'm never going to require the amount of meat that the leather would, you know, to be hunting all of them myself. It would just never happen. But I would just like to be able to do it, and to say that I've done the entire process from start to finish, I think would be really
it certainly adds to the story. I do think that as a society, we're really disconnected from where our food comes from, where our materials come from.
Absolutely.
Everything.
And some of the chemicals put on the fabric that people wouldn't hesitate to go to the mall and buy a shirt, you know, that's toxic, and it's hurting the environment in ways that, you know, using a deer skin that's already, you know, part of a natural cycle, someone's eating it, that's beautiful, I think. And it's just, we're not educated to think like that in this country. It's all about disposable things. And
there's not, it's like the Jason Isbell song, The Last of My Kind, you know, it's, there's definitely, but I do think that there's generally in society like a little bit of a trend for people to go back and appreciate you know?
I think there's a huge trend now, which I'm not normally big on trends, but it's a great trend to see people think about where their food comes from and to think about that relationship and to go to the farmer's market or to eat wild harvested meat instead of go to the grocery store and just, it's wrapped in plastic. They don't think about it as an animal or, I think if people really thought more about that, there wouldn't be factory farms because nobody would want to support that and nobody would go to Walmart to buy their meat or whatever.
Yeah, there's a complete cognitive dissonance where they just look at it as like a wrapped thing.
They don't want to think about the fact that it was an animal or where it might have come from or how its life might have been. And that's something I think about every day because of the work I do. It's very important to me.
Yeah, and you kill chickens, right?
Nah.
No, you just use them for eggs? Okay, I was going to say, like,
they're just for eggs.
If you do chicken farming, I don't know. I mean, that gives you a special relationship to that chicken.
I mean, I admire that, and I think that if more people, created their own food on a farm environment, they would understand more, where it comes from and how special it is.
So let's go back to how did you overcome that challenge? So you said it was just like a small challenge where you could move your hand for 2 months, which, given what you're making, is kind of a big deal. So let's talk about that. And psychologically for you, because you're better now, but you didn't know how long it was going to take for you to get better. How was that mentally for you?
I have a great chiropractor here, and she saved my life and got me back, to work really quickly after I went to her. But, before I went there, I was thinking, oh my gosh, do I have to come up with a new business? What am I going to do? And I've always been the kind of person that sticks to my guns, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to have a new business. This is what I do. I love to do this, so I just have to figure it out, and I think sometimes when challenges come to you like that, there's a reason, you're supposed to learn something, and I learned to pace myself and to, honor myself and not work harder than I'm able to. So it was a really good experience, even though it started out as a challenge.
So in some ways it enabled you to justify, say that it's okay not to be, working all the time. It gave you some balance.
Yeah, I don't need to compete, with other companies that are mass producing their products. I can't compete with those kind of people because I'm working with my two hands. And, I didn't want to make the decision to outsource my products and compromise the materials or the quality of the construction. So the answer is just to work on a very small scale and be selective about what I make and where it goes. I think
in many ways people are buying that story and that process and that, like, when they get that bag, right? It's like it's a much deeper connection with the product and the story.
Absolutely. And I offer a lifetime guarantee with all my work. I want people to have it forever. So very rarely have I ever had anyone, call me and say that something broke. But if it does, you're investing in a piece you'll have forever. And I think, my customers appreciate that, and we develop a relationship working together. When I make something custom for someone, they become like a friend. So it's really cool. That's
cool. So you mentioned a really cool request that you had for a wedding dress. What's the craziest thing that anybody's ever asked you to make? Or
I can't really think of anything crazy.
Really? I mean, you must come across some characters.
I had a couple requests, I feel like, when I lived in LA for like leather thongs or something, but I think I was kind of joking. I don't think they really wanted the leather thong.
Got it. Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty crazy. For people who are thinking about, so there's a lot of people who listen to the podcast who are maybe thinking about starting their own business. Or maybe they're, running their business. What's the number one piece of advice that you would give them based on your experience?
Be authentic. Blaze your own trail. Do your own thing. Don't be influenced by others, and don't worry about trends. Just do what is meaningful to you. And if you stick with that and work hard and learn from your mistakes and just believe in yourself no matter what, it takes persistence and endurance. And I think with those qualities, the sky's the limit and anything's possible. So just keep working hard.
Yeah. And how do you overcome, whenever there's times, because we all have times of doubt, right? Like, we're all human. So what's your self-talk when there's times when you're like, oh shit, like this is, how do you talk to yourself forward?
The way I was raised was, chop wood and carry water, work hard. Yeah. I'm accustomed to struggle. So I just I put my head down and I keep going, and there's no doubt. That's not an option. You have to find a way. You just do it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story on Small Business War Stories. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Before we sign off, where can people find you? So your Instagram account is?
I have 2 Instagrams, Leslie Crowe Official and Coyote Spirit Child. And you can also find my products online at www.lesliecrowe.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Small Business War Stories. If you enjoy the show, share it with a friend, or you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or on our blog at blog.proven.com. If you have an idea for us, we'd love to hear it. Please email us at podcast@proven.com. See you next time. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes.